Hey guys, this is Jack at Lunicycle. Today we're going to go over how to assemble the drift trike. First, let's go over what you're going to need. So, here's what you'll need. A 5mm and a 4mm Allen. 24mm socket, another 24mm socket, or a crescent wrench will work. Alright, so we'll start with installing the fork on the frame of the bike. So what first you want to do is make sure that the fork is facing the right way and that your wires are going to be in such a way when you install it in the frame that they're not tangled up and wrapped around some of the tubes, in which case you'll have to take the fork off and do it again. Take the wheel, slide the fork into the headset. First thing we'll do is we'll take this plastic piece, which is the upper bearing race, and we'll slide it over the top of the headset. And as we're sliding it down, give it a little wiggle, which will center the fork tube in the center of the headset bearing. Next, we'll take our headset cap, slide that down as well, aluminum spacer. Then we'll take handlebars. Now you'll want to get this twisted so that all of the cables are running in the front of the frame, not twisted around each other. Give that a good wiggle. Now you'll take your stem cap bolt, put it into the top of the stem, and it'll thread into that star nut that's inside the top of the fork tube. You'll tighten that first before you tighten these on the sides of the stem. This will pull the bearings in the headset nice and tight. Finger tight's good to start, and basically you want to wiggle it around and make sure you don't feel any play in this headset bearings, but that the fork and handlebars still should turn without any resistance. Once that's nice and tight, then you can torque down the two bolts on the side of the stem. And then you'll want to make sure that the brakes are on the driver's left side. And that'll ensure that you've got the fork on the right way and that the trike won't try to go in reverse on you when you take off. Alright, so next we're going to attach the rear axle to the frame. So you have two options here. You can run it this way, which will give you a little bit of a lower ride height, which may be better for drifting if you want the lower center of gravity. Or you could run it this way, which will raise you up off the ground a little bit. It's probably a little bit more recommended if you plan on taking these plastic slide guides off. Just give you a little bit of a higher ground clearance and you'll be able to get over things a little bit better. But for today, we're going to install it in the lower setup. So I have this set up in a front wheel bike rack. It might make it a little bit easier if you can get something to hold the front tire steady as you're installing it. Slide that. Lift this up. Give it a little bit of wiggle. Get your bolt holes nice and lined up. We're going to put the plate on over. I'll take the large bolt, put it through the first hole. And now you notice I left the one washer on the top. The other small lock washer is going to go on the bottom. Lock washer and then the nut. Finger tighten it. Go with the second one. Nut and washer on the top. Lock nut and nut on the bottom. Just finger tighten those for now. We'll take our crescent wrench and our 24mm socket. Tighten these down nice and tight. We don't have an exact torque setting for this, but you're gonna, being where it holds the entire frame together, you wanna get these nice and tight. one side. Give you a little better view of what we're doing here. Wrench on the nut, socket on the top, on the bolt. We're just getting these nice and tight. All right, so now we're going to go over the mounting battery bracket and the battery. This is only if you got the builder's kit with the battery. So it'll come with this metal plate and this battery. So you'll take the metal plate facing with the ribs facing the back of the trike, and you'll just drop these 4 Allen bolts through these holes, and then finger thread a washer and a wing nut on the back side of each of the Allen bolts. Not too tight. Nice and loose, just like that. You're going to take the battery, you're going to slide that plate right into those grooves inside the top and the bottom lip of the battery. And as you get to the bolts, you'll have to pull them nice and tight to get it to pass through. And then you'll pull it all the way over to where that hole is meeting up with the lock nut or the barrel for the lock. And you'll lock it in place. You want to just leave it in locked, but not in the on position for right now. Now we're going to take the battery. Make sure you get those washers nice and far sitting right up against these wing nuts. The wing nuts are real loose, so you'll be able to slide them inside of that bracket. Drop that, slide it down, and now you want to get it so that lock nut barrel sits right there, right at the top of the plate. Tighten these 2 down. You want to get these wing nuts nice and tight. And you can see here how the mounting bolts aren't sitting totally at the bottom of these grooves. So it'll allow for you to be able to lock and unlock the battery. And now we'll put the pegs on. So you'll just thread these on right over the lock nut, the axle nut. Twist it in. Then they have this little hole here. You can take that, put a 5mm Allen key, twist it down a little bit tighter. You'll do that on each side. And lastly, will be the seat installation. So the seat will have 4 holes drilled into the bottom of it, and those will line up with these guides. You'll be able to adjust the seat forward to back for, depending on how long your legs are, to make it a little bit more comfortable for you. Take our 4 provided Allen bolts, start one through, and then you're just gonna have to try and line it up with the first hole. Tighten it a little bit with your finger, then tighten it down with your 4mm Allen key. Do all the 4 the same way. Make sure your seat's on there nice and tight. And you're just about ready to ride. So lastly, you'll want to hook up, if you bought the battery with the Trike, you want to hook up the battery adapter cable. So this plugs right into the battery. It's best to do this while the battery's powered off, of course. Clicks in, XT60 to the XT60 on the controller. As you can see, there's a little bit extra play here, so you don't want that dangling around. It could catch something, yank out, maybe damage the battery or the controller. So take a few zip ties or tape, whatever you have. You'll just want to tighten that up a little, make sure nothing can snag it. Can keep it on the top side of the axle tube. This way if anything comes from underneath, it won't be able to grab the wire. Nothing too permanent, so you'll still be able to take it off if you need to, but just something to keep it, the extra slack of the wire from dangling beneath the Trike. Alright, and so for the last few things you'll want to check before you get riding is make sure your axle nuts on both rear wheels are tight. Make sure the axle nuts on the front wheel are tight, as well as the pegs. And give your brakes a good test. Make sure that they feel nice and firm. If they feel soft or loose, these are Shimano disc brakes, regular bike brakes. You can take them to any local bike shop and they'll be able to get them into proper adjustment. You definitely want really strong brakes, seeing as this is the only brake on the scooter, or drift trike. Then I'll test to make sure that the front pressure on the tire is pretty firm. I believe what the rating says, 20 psi is what it says on the tire. So turn the switch on, and you'll just turn the on switch on the handlebars and the display should light up and you'll be good to go.